Welcome to episode 1 of Two Guys, One Sport, the newest wrestling podcast on the internet. I am Crazy Chris.
I'm George. Hi, everybody.
And we are going to be talking about whatever we want to on this show. This is our new podcast, and we just like to talk professional wrestling, whatever comes to mind. And this is just going to be a discussion show. We're going to talk about matches that we've watched and enjoyed, recent events, things that are going on within our community of wrestling fans on Cagesideseats.com. Really, whatever comes to mind. We're just going to have fun with this. So we hope that you are enjoying it, and we hope that you continue to tune in. And remember, don't work yourself into a shoot.
No, don't be that guy. No one likes that guy.
So, real quick before we start, we do need to just send our best wishes for healing to NJPW star Tomoaki Honma, who, if you have not heard, suffered an injury at the recent show in Okinawa yesterday. He was in a match with Togi Makabe and Michael Elgin against the tag champions Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano, and Jado from Chaos was also joining them. And Honma took a DDT from Jado while hanging off the middle rope and apparently suffered a serious neck injury. Word is that it's a cervical vertebrae problem, and there's conflicting reports going around about what his current status is, but we send our best wishes to Honma for a recovery and hopefully be able to come back to the ring.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, you hear all the time, oh, this stuff's fake, but guys get hurt, unfortunately, and you look at the long litany of injuries that guys have suffered and retired early, Edge being first and one of the more recent examples, but the list goes on and on. Mm-hmm. And we wish Honma nothing but the best and hope he can get back to doing what he loves doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for a guy who's been such a fan favorite and was going to be part of New Japan Cup. So that's going to
it's a big loss.
Cause some issues. So hopefully he's able to get back soon. But before we get into the main content for the episode, also we're going to discuss real quick our personal matches of the week. These are not matches that have happened in the last week necessarily. They're rather just matches that we've watched recently that we enjoyed that we want to plug for other people to watch as well. So, George, you first.
Mine is, I mean, if my avatar hasn't given it away, I'm a big Triple H guy. And
what
I have to go.
Triple H is a big Triple H guy
too.
Yes,
Triple H. Well, Triple H in the spring when he's cycling on to whatever he's cycling onto is a big Triple H guy. But mine is the Triple H Daniel Bryan opening match of WrestleMania 30. To set the scene, Daniel Bryan had to beat Triple H to be put in the main event, which was scheduled to be a Batista Randy Orton for the unified belts, right? They had both belts then, I believe.
Yeah, it was the unified WWE World Heavyweight Championship.
Batista won the Rumble. Orton was the handpicked champion of the Authority. The winner of this opening match would be put into the main event and becoming a triple threat. Either Triple H would win and take matters into his own hands, or Bryan would win and everyone would be happy. And you can't have a WrestleMania Triple H match in the modern vintage without an elaborate, huge setup of an entrance, and this was no exception. He likes that King of Kings, Barbarian King, Conan gimmick, as part of his thing, and this was no exception. He comes out with this giant throne, and if you look closely, behind him are 3 good-looking ladies, and if you look even closer, that's NXT at the time, now main roster mainstays, Alexa Bliss with red tinted hair, Sasha Banks and Charlotte all wearing like chainmail brassieres and outfits, and they really add to it. He comes out in this huge, elaborate throne with the giant robe and a big crosses everywhere, and the women are taking it off him. And he marches to the ring, and he stands there in front of the ring, and he always talks about this, that he waits for the lighting cue, for the camera to switch around right in front of the ring. And he says this on one of the 24 specials, which if you haven't seen them all yet, they're all really good.
Yeah, definitely go and watch those.
And he says he looks around at the upper deck because at his age, he doesn't know how many manias he has left. So, and I always thought that was kind of cool. And we give him aggravation all the time. It's one of the cool things to do in the smart community is to hate on the guy for various reasons. And they're deserved, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he's still a performer, doing his thing. Brian comes out. I think actually, yeah, Brian may have been first, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Brian comes out and he's selling a shoulder injury and it's all taped up. And 75,000 people are chanting yes in unison as he's going down the aisle. Stephanie's out there wearing some weird schoolgirl-ish uniform.
Yeah, that was...
She's right in her prime in terms of just being the best heel in the company. Like, she's become played out now, but at the time, she was just incredible. She was in her absolute sweet spot at just being just this annoying, conniving scoundrel of a woman. And she's out there at the end of the moment, and Trips is out there in his just swollen up glory, and Brian's the plucky baby face who's given 8 inches and 80 pounds probably. And the match begins, and it's a great match because at this point, Triple H matches are only great if he can throw guys around. Mm-hmm. Case in point, Sting was bad. Well, Sting match was fine, but it was all smoke and mirrors. The Brock Lesnar match the year before was a C match at best, right?
Yeah.
Because Brock's a big dude too. Last year's Triple H Roman Reigns match, we don't really need to get into. Less said about that. I think that match actually is still going on in Dallas. The Cowboys have just played around the ring the entire year because that was never ending. Brian, I mean, he's one of the 5 best technical wrestlers of all time for a reason. He's one of the best sellers of all time. He's one of the best in-ring competitors of all time. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he bumps like a goddamn maniac. And Triple H just throws him all over the place. And there's one time where he throws him outside, and Steph goes, "You like that, Brian? You mess with the bull, you get the horns." Like, what's not to like in this match?
Everything about
it. Triple H. My favorite part of the match is that Triple H does a chicken wing exploder German suplex. So he pins Brian's arms behind him and just throws him behind his and Brian flips over and sells death. And when the time comes, there's no doubt who's winning this match. I mean, in the end of the day. But
this was back when WrestleMania actually was the babyface show.
Exactly. Pedigree kick out, running Buzaku knee, 1, 2, 3, clean as a sheet. No BS afterwards. No kick out at 3.5. Shades of Hulk Hogan against the Warrior. None of that. Triple H lays there, sells death to this one finish. No false finishes. One knee. That's it. And I love this match. Stephanie's shock as Hunter gets pinned is one of my all-time favorite images. So I mean, we give her shit, but she's really good at being a performer. She's scripted wrong, but her performing her role, she's very good at. Absolutely. And hats off to both these guys. I'm pretty sure this was either second or third on my Observer ballot for Match of the Year that year. I think it finished. We looked like 8th or 9th or something. We looked up this morning behind a litany of New Japan matches that I don't remember except for the winner, which was an exceptional
match.
What?
And the Shield and the Wyatt.
Oh, the Shield. Oh, yeah, the Elimination Chamber. Yeah, we should do that next week. Let's do that next week. Let's do that match next week. We could just go through like 2014 and just go from there because that Shield Wyatt match is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this match. This is my match of the week. It's just how I remember at my friend's house. He just got the network, had a bunch of people over, and we were all sitting there just like, and even the people who weren't huge wrestling fans, who were just over because it's WrestleMania and is Steve Austin still wrestling? Those fans.
Yeah.
We're like, wow, this match is actually really good. Yeah. So it was good for the smarks. It was good for the casuals. It was good for the marks. Everyone loved it. Crowd was white hot. And
it all worked out.
If you don't believe that Daniel Bryan's one of the best ever, just watch this match.
Yeah.
So that's my match of the week.
All right. Mine is actually, ironically enough, one that did happen in the past week. Coming from night 1. Yes, it was night 1 of Honor Rising, the New Japan and Ring of Honor joint show that happened last weekend in Japan. And there were some pretty good matches that happened over the course of the weekend, but I'm going to pick one that probably a lot of people didn't pay attention to because of one of the performers in the match, that being the tag team match that featured Jay Lethal and Katsuyori Shibata going against Cody Rhodes and Hangman Page. I'm picking this match for 2 reasons. One, because Katsuyori Shibata no-selling Cody Rhodes' strikes is everything good in pro wrestling today.
Oh, I can't wait.
He basically, Cody gets him into the corner and hits him with about 5 forearm strikes in a row, and after every single one, Shibata's just like, nope, points at his chin, like, come on, do it again, just keeps on just like, nope, you're doing nothing to me, come on, one more time, and then as soon as Cody hits the last one, Shibata is just like, okay, I've had enough of you, one shot, and Cody's on his back. And given how much Cody has gone over lots of other indie talent recently, if you're a fan of good indie wrestling and don't like the Cody Rhodes reign of terror that's happening on the indie circuit right now, this was nice vindication for that, because Shibata just he's and the guy's 37 years old and he's still one of the best. I just love that about him.
I'm not 100% sure he knows that this stuff is supposed to be predetermined. When I watched him, I'm like, he knows this isn't a shoot, right?
Yeah, this is one of the many reasons why everybody's excited for him to face Suzuki in round 1 of the New Japan Cup.
Man, that's going to be just something special, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be great. But the other thing about this match that I really enjoyed is that Hangman Page got to shine in this match. He was the unexpected star of this match. Of all the people going into this, you think, oh yeah, Shibata, he's been one of the main eventers for New Japan for forever. Jay Lethal, main eventer for ROH for forever. Cody Rhodes is Cody Rhodes. But Hangman Page, you go into this match, you think, oh, he's just going to be there to take the pin. Not only did his team win the match, but Paige pinned Jay Lethal to win this match, which is completely unexpected out of nowhere. And he, on his way there, looked really damn good. I don't know what they're building him up for. Well, I have an idea of what they're building him up for, but I'm not going to go into it on the account of there being backstage stuff that shouldn't be discussed right now, because who knows where it's going to go. But whatever happens after this, Paige is definitely not going to be an afterthought in the Bullet Club anymore. He is looking great, and I hope that they continue to use him like this, because he, of all the people in the Bullet Club that are underutilized, he's one that I think definitely needs to get a little bit more notice on him, because he's a great performer. When he got put into the Bullet Club, I remember there being a lot of talk about him, and then he just kind of disappeared into the background behind Omega and the Bucks and everybody else. So giving Paige giving Paige more notice is something that I will gladly welcome, because he deserves it.
You have mentioned in the past your and before we go any further, elaborate on your desire to split the Bullet Club up real quick.
Okay, so you
mentioned that in the past, and I'm starting to come around to it. You're talking me into it.
So this is something that actually stems off of Events of Honor Rising, which we're going to be discussing in a couple of weeks on our 3rd episode of the show. But there was a promo given at the end of night 2 of Honor Rising that definitely we're going to talk about, because it's problematic for at least for me. But my whole thought about the Bullet Club right now is, because they're supposed to be a heel faction, I would like to see at the end of some event, whether it's at end of New Japan Cup if Kenny Omega wins or something else, but Omega's going to be out in the ring in the middle of one of his wonderful self-aggrandizing "I'm the greatest in the world" promos with the rest of the Bullet Club out there. What I want to see is Tama Tonga grab the mic from Kenny and say, Kenny, this is all great. I'm glad that you're doing so well for yourself, but I started the Bullet Club with Anderson, Devitt, and Fale way back in the day, and you've turned us into a parody of ourselves. We're supposed to be bad guys. You and the Bucks and Cole and Cody are treating this like it's a joke. Your Bullet Club name, just go on and on, just rip into him, and rightfully so, for them going for cheap pops and getting the crowd to love them when they're not supposed to be doing that, because they're supposed to be the bad guys. And Omega takes the mic back and says, well, Tonga, if you don't like it, why don't you do something about it? And Tonga says, that's a great idea. And then him and Fale and Tangaloa and Paige just annihilate the Elite and Cole and Cody. Just rip them apart. And then Tonga grabs the mic afterwards and says, us 4 right now, we're the Bullet Club, and we're not taking this anymore. we're coming after all of you and we're going to tear you all apart. Just really just go full destruction heel with them, because the Bullet Club right now is the story of two factions. You've got the Elite, Cole and Cody on one side, who are just being faces in all but name, to getting the crowd on their side, cheap pops, everything, being silly, just the dumb stuff that they do in the ring is not resemblant of the Bullet Club's history. And then you've got the true bad guys who still act like bad guys on the other side, and we're just going to leave Takahashi and Boner out of this because we don't need them anymore.
No. That's probably a smart move.
Yeah, we're gonna leave them in the parking lot somewhere to wrestle broomsticks. That's fine. But yeah, split the Bullet Club up. Have the 5 guys who want to be wackos form their own goofy face stable, and they can do their own thing. Let the Bullet Club be the Bullet Club. Let them go back to what they used to be, please. So that's my rant on that. And again, we'll cover that in a little bit more detail about what my thoughts are about that issue in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Now that the preamble is out of the way, I heard you and 5 other people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other people, had a fantasy draft.
We did.
Tell the class about your fantasy draft.
So, for those of you who are members of CagesideSeats.com, you may notice.
And if you're not, you should be.
Yeah, if you're not, you should be. Please go join the site if you're not part of it. We're going to regularly be plugging Cageside, by the way, because we think we're the best damn pro wrestling community on the internet, and we want more people to join us in that. So, for those of you who follow Cageside in the fan post recently, you may have noticed that last weekend we had ourselves a draft among the group that is part of the nightly post, where we just kind of every night stay up late and talk about wrestling or whatever else is on our minds. We organized a fantasy draft for 6 people. It was myself and 5 others, and we went 50 rounds and put together our own promotions. There's a link to the draft board in the description of the video if you want to follow along there. But today we're going to be covering my promotion and the people I drafted, and George is going to be my Mel Kiper Jr. here to analyze the draft board and tell me what I did right, what I did wrong, what is confusing, and what is definitely a sleeper. Because
I don't have anywhere near the luxurious hair that Mel Kiper has. I'll be the first to say that. That man has a glorious man. But I will do my best.
He's the main event, MANE.
Oh, you punny boy. You punny boy.
I had to get that in there.
So
all right.
The way we planned it is we'll talk about your federation, and then we'll go and then next week I'll go through and look at everyone else's and kind of analyze what I liked, what I did not like.
Yeah, next week we're going to do a full analysis of the rest of the draft board.
Let's start big.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we look at who you picked and the nitty-gritties, give me a 10,000-foot view, a bird's eye view of your federation. How often are you running? Are you going to be touring house shows? Are you going to be, give me that big broad view.
Right. So there are a lot of people out there who will remember the beginnings of Lucha Underground, and when it was first being formed, everybody who was part of the creative for Lucha Underground was talking about that it was going to be less like a wrestling show and more like a movie, with a continuous storyline and whatnot, and big production and everything like that. I wanted to do that, but ramped up to 1,000. So what I have done here is my federation, which is known as the Combat Diplomacy Arena, is basically a Lucha Underground-esque promotion where there is a through line of backstory and lots of plot lines going on behind the scenes and shown in little backstage segments, outside segments that happen beyond the ring, going on that kind of show the character motivations and everything that's going on. And the storyline that basically is set in a futuristic, somewhat post-apocalyptic setting, not really, basically of a city that has been taken over by this cabal of politicians, businessmen, war profiteers. It's big, shady shadow organization that has now taken over administration of the city, running things from afar, being the usual kind of corrupt leadership you see in movies and such. And because of the fact that they're disengaged from everything that's going on in the city, these three factions rise up and kind of go to war against each other to see who can take control of the city underneath the thumb of the cabal.
Okay. So, excuse me. So you have, I see what. So you're going to be. How often are you going to be running? Weekly, monthly? What do you? Give me a little nuts and bolts here.
Ideally, we're operating on the principle that this is being run with an unlimited budget because that's the best way to go about this.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's a fair assumption. We'll assume that everyone's federation is run with everyone won the lottery.
Yes. So we're running this as a weekly show that's going to be in a fairly good-sized arena, usually like about 5,000 to 8,000 seats.
Okay.
We're going to kind of keep it to a one home base like Lucha Underground does because we want to be able to keep our production in a contiguous setting because there's going to be a lot of stuff to move around.
So no house shows at first.
No, we're not going to be talking house shows until maybe later on, and if we do that, that's going to require some interesting planning, to suffice to say. But to start off, this is just going to be weekly in one location, and the basic setup is going to be that the storylines bits are going to be shown within the broadcast and for the audience to see on Jumbotron or whatever, and those will be interspersed throughout the show to kind of keep all of the plot lines running, and everything that happens as a plot line is going to be part of the main through line of this faction warfare that I've set up. So essentially think of it as Lucha Underground storyline setup meets New Japan faction warfare booking over a long term.
A quick aside. I think you said you wanted to have maybe a weekly home base, same city, same building, like how PWG does with the American Legion Hall or Lucha Underground does, or various indies all over the country do. I think 5,000 is too many people, to be honest. I think you want a little smaller, intimate feel. I think you should cap it at maybe 1,000, maybe 1,200. Like when I go to AAW shows, I mean it's 500. That's probably too small. PWG is what, 800? It looks like when they do the American Legion.
Yeah.
The
idea behind it is
I think 5 is too many because I think you're just going to lose stuff. But I think you can get away with maybe between 8 and 12.
Yeah,
15 thereabouts. Like Corgan Hall's what, 1,800 people.
Yeah,
that's probably the upper limit that you want.
Okay, yeah, that seems reasonable to start.
Yeah, plus it's going to be a lot easier to find a place like that and rent it out every week and be able to do what you want with it. You know what I mean, in terms of background and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay,
maybe grow it over time.
Yeah, and obviously if you have a wait list or whatever, you can go from there. But I think it's easier to start small and expand slowly than it is to start big and then downsize. Plus, it looks bad. I mean, we make fun of TNA for going from one soundstage to another soundstage with less people.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we've established we have this world, this vivid world with a cabal and 3 dueling factions, right?
Yes.
Safe to say, heel, tweener, face, or heel face, or what are you going for there?
I mean, there's definitely one heel and one face. The third faction, is gonna go tweener but lean more heel than face.
Let's talk about the factions then.
Yeah. So the face faction is you're gonna be thinking your standard group of like freedom fighters, resistance fighters. It's referred to as the coalition.
So like the rebels in Star Wars.
Essentially, yeah. They're basically your guys who are trying to ensure that tyranny and oppression doesn't take over the city, and that everybody's still given the ability to self-actualize and determine their own destiny and not be slaves to the corporate system.
Very Assassin's Creed-esque.
Yes. And then the heel faction, the straight heel faction, is known as the Empire, and that's basically going to be run as a crime syndicate. You've got a group of guys who have essentially taken over trade and commerce in the city through force, and they're running a black market, price gouging, basically enslaving the other citizens to serve them.
And they do all your various crime things, drug running, extortion, prostitution, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are the clear bad guys.
The mobsters from the Batman Begins movies.
Exactly.
Okay. But they are not the government, though. There is another government above them.
The main group that's running the city is basically just completely disengaged from all of this.
Okay,
they're just there to make sure that the city doesn't go up in smoke.
Makes sense.
So they're kind of disengaged and just kind of letting.
So you have your empire, you have your rebellion.
Yeah.
And then who's the third group?
All right, the third group. The best way to describe them is that they are an anarchist cult. The third group is referred to as mutiny, and they basically are obsessed with the idea of converting people to the belief that the entire city must be torn down in order for everybody to achieve their dreams and their goals of freedom. So they're basically just running amok, causing all sorts of chaos and destruction, and making life hell for the other two factions and everybody else who's not.
So the coalition wants to free the city but keep it more or less intact.
Yes.
Whereas mutiny just is going after everybody.
Yeah, mutiny just wants to burn it all down.
Okay. Some men just want to watch the world burn, right?
Exactly. This is the Joker as an army group, basically.
Okay. So I mean, to use the Batman Begins thing, the Empire is like the mobsters from Batman, from the Dark Knight.
Yes.
The mutiny is like the Joker and his band of merry men, and the coalition would be like just the guys who are just wanting to free the citizenry from the shadow empire. Okay.
Yeah. Batman and his allies, essentially.
Yeah. And then the government, but only in this world, the government doesn't really do much.
Yeah.
There is no Commissioner Gordon or anything.
Right. The reality to the storyline is that the warfare between these three factions grew to such a degree that the Cabal, for the first time, actually had to step in and do something. Okay. So they said, okay, the three of you three factions, we're going to allow you to continue to exist, but rather than destroying the whole city through your continuous infighting, we're going to establish this central area where you can resolve your disputes and figure out your power struggle through combat. And that's
so it's like Lucha Underground meets Kaiju Big Battle, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that sounds really interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, without the insane characters of Kaiju Big Battle.
Yeah, but the same whole you have a central combat zone.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you looking for in ring style? Are you looking for like a indie-rific PWG, AAW, spam 40 finishers and kick out? Are you looking for a more strong style like New Japan? Are you looking for strong style on steroids like Dragon Gate? Are you looking for lucha with that telenovela feel? What are you looking for style-wise?
Style-wise, I really want it to be a balance and interaction where people are forced to, in a lot of ways, like Lucha Underground, where, like, if you think of Aztec Warfare and competitors who you would never think to see facing each other. For example, Mil Muertes versus Sexy Star. That's a match where in any other Fed that would never happen. But in Lucha Underground, it does, because they make it work that way. And that's kind of the way I wanted to do it here, where you can have competitors who you would never think could interact and put on good matches will be able to show what they can do. And, granted, some people are definitely not going to be competing against each other. You're not going to see someone like Peyton Royce going against Jeff Cobb. That's not a thing that's going to happen, but there will be definitely some interactions where you're going to have lucha guys going against strong style. You're going to have powerhouses that are going to be facing strong style competitors or lucha guys. It's going to definitely be a mix of high spots, grappling, all sorts of different style interactions. Just because I want to be able to give people an idea of what different kind of interactions you can see, what kind of different matches you can see. Because
and so everybody, oh, go on. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, because you see the same kind of guys interacting week in and week out, it gets stale. So if you can mix up interactions,
Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, exactly.
So everybody on your federation is going to be affiliated with one of these three groups. Or are you going to have like freelancers?
Everybody's going to be affiliated with a group, but there definitely will be points later on down the line as the storyline progresses where people are going to be changing alignments.
What you're going to have like an unaffiliated?
Well, whether it's unaffiliated or people deserting their factions or people leaving to join a different faction, the power struggle is going to be represented in that, and then also the title changes that happen. That's going to represent the power struggle, because you're going to have people who are going to be dissatisfied with what is going on with their faction. They're going to say, okay, well, Mutiny's doing better. I'm going to join up with them and see how it goes. Or, the Empire shunned me. I'm going to go join the coalition, et cetera, et cetera.
Now that we've kind of set the scene, you picked 5th, right?
Yes, I was 5th in the order.
This was a snake style draft. So you went 5th, and then you picked again right away pretty much, and then it kind of made a big snake, like a fantasy football draft.
Yeah. So you can follow along with the draft board and kind of just pick, see that going along in the order, Swiss Last Kicker started first on every odd numbered round, and Foreign Object started first on every even numbered round.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you for the clarification. So, and again, I don't want to spoil next week's show by going into in-depth detail with everyone else's picks, because I will. But I want to go through. You picked 5th, so there were 4 people that were drafted before you.
Yes.
So I want to go through and ask you person by person if you would have drafted that person who was not available had they been available, and why or why not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's start with AJ Styles. AJ Styles, round 1, pick 1, first overall pick. If he was available, would you have taken him, and why or why not? With your first pick.
Right. A lot of people out there say AJ Styles is the first pick, no brainer. And I can understand why. Guy's a work rate monster, and doesn't matter who he's facing on the other side of the ring. He puts on good matches with everybody except for Chris Jericho, but that's a special circumstance. AJ Styles, for any other federation that's just a normal kind of wrestling group, I would say absolutely. But the kind of product that I want to push is something that demands people who can be longer lasting, because I want them to last longer in their stories. So AJ Styles, for me, probably would not be a person I would pick first, because of the fact he is 39 years old and he has a clock on him. The guy works insane matches, and eventually that's going to catch up with him. It's just a fact of life. The guy doesn't have an unlimited time span left on his wrestling career, so I would probably not have picked him first if he was still available.
Okay. I'm going to save my thoughts for all these guys and ladies for next week's show. Right. So we're going to kind of go through this a lightning round, so to speak.
Right.
So AJ Styles, you would not have picked first if you had the opportunity to. Obviously, if he was like 5th or 6th, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But we're talking just first.
If he gets beyond the 3rd round,
no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All these guys and ladies, if they get beyond the 3rd or 4th round, no-brainer.
Yeah.
Let's be fair. Even this next pick, who is, in my view, the biggest reach of the first round. But again, I'll save that for next week. Yeah. Becky Lynch. If Becky Lynch was available, would you have picked her first?
Not first. Not a chance. I do want women's wrestling to be a focus, and there's going to be even a little bit of intergender wrestling that's going to happen in my federation. But Becky Lynch, as good as she is, as talented as she is, I don't believe is someone you can pick first, because the first pick has to be somebody who can carry your entire promotion. Do I believe Becky Lynch could carry a women's division? Maybe. It's certainly conceivable to believe that she at some point could be the person carrying the entire women's division. But I don't believe she's the person who's going to carry the entire promotion. So probably 3rd or 4th round as my first women's division pick, potentially, but not first round.
Okay. I think that's fair on its surface. I also think, and given what you said about the promotions, I think Becky doesn't really fit into those. Although she is a white hot baby face of fire.
Yeah.
So she could easily have slotted in to be your leader of the coalition. But I understand. But first seems a little high.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
These next two, however, I think are no-brainer picks.
Yeah.
But I'm going to let you talk about them. Let's talk about Bro, Matt Riddle.
Yeah.
Only if he comes with regulators as his music. Otherwise, he's only like a 5th-round pick. No, I'm just kidding.
I love regulators. That's a fantastic song for him.
At AAW, and I'm sure this happens at other places. Everyone yells "Mount Up" when that part happens in the song.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Matt Riddle. If he was available, would you have picked him first, and why?
This is a really hard one for me.
Let's assume that you don't get it's either Riddle or Omega. Let's assume.
Yeah.
Let's make that assumption because I don't think you get Omega on the comeback. To be honest.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, Riddle he's a once in a generation talent. The guy is one of the best that is out there on the indie scene right now, if not the best on the indie scene right now. Guy is insanely talented. And I don't even think he's hit his ceiling yet. My only question at this point is, does he have the character work? Because this is going to be an intensely character-driven promotion. And the indie scene, for what it is much more focused on work rate than it is on character. So I don't know that we've seen necessarily what Matt Riddle can do in character work. And that's the only hesitation that I have about him. Do I believe that he has the capacity to work a character and, play a role? I believe that he could, but I don't know how strong his character work is. And that's the reason why I would hesitate a little bit. But I absolutely believe that he would be a great asset, even if we just kind of gave him something bland. He could still get the crowds on his side just by his work rate. So, there'd be a little hesitation, but I would be inclined to pick him more than likely if this next choice was not available.
Okay. Bit of an interlude. First of all, I agree with everything you say. Second of all, a little tease for next week's show. Looking at the draft board again, Jomo Central's team is really, really stacked.
Yeah,
you're gonna have a little bit of problem there. I mean, if you're fighting a ratings war or something against this team, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah, as a traditional wrestling promotion, absolutely, Jomo Central just
it's
the best as a traditional
wrestling promotion. Yeah, as a traditional WWE style mainline promotion, something for everybody. It's pretty great, but. Yeah. Let's not get lost. Now, when you told me that you knew you were picking 5th about a week before the draft, right?
Yeah.
When did you know how you were structuring your federation around these three warring groups?
I pretty much had that idea from the beginning when we set this whole draft up. Okay. Because
so you drafted to fit that then?
Yes.
I'm looking at your top 3 picks, and I don't mean to step on your toes. Each one of these guys is leading one of these groups, right?
Yes.
Okay. But is that how you planned it? Did you hope that you would get these 3 guys?
Yes. Now, yes and no. I had planned that my first 3 picks were going to be the leaders of the 3 factions, but if certain guys were not available, then I was going to just drop it to 2 with the idea of eventually increasing it to 3 down the line. But I wanted to have 3 guys who could fit in leadership roles right out the gate. Okay. So that was my idea.
So Matt Riddle, so AJ Styles is a no, Becky Lynch is a no, Matt Riddle is a tentative yes.
Yes.
Or a tentative no. How do you want to classify that?
I would call it a tentative yes.
Okay. Just you can't turn down that talent.
Exactly.
How about this next guy? Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns was my number 1 pick. And
so if he was available, you would have picked him
immediately. If I had
no doubt about it.
If I had round 1 pick 1, he would have been round 1 pick 1 for me.
Okay.
Because Roman Reigns has proven, without a shadow of a doubt, he is one of the best in the ring. He is one of the best heel characters that can work in the world. And as a guy who can play a disinterested, better than you asshole heel, Roman Reigns would be the immediate top choice to be the leader of the Empire.
Roman Reigns as your crime lord is an intriguing world.
Yeah.
It really is, because he I've never met Joe Anoa'i. Is that how you pronounce it?
Anoa'i.
I've never met Joe Anoa'i. But I get the feeling that he would be kind of a dick in real life,
Yeah.
which is fine. I'm kind of a dick in real life too. I'm not.
Exactly.
I'm not casting aversions here. He's not John Cena or Sting or one of these goody good guys in real life.
Exactly.
So I think it'd be easy for them for you to script him as this crime boss.
Yeah.
I think that'd be an easy fit. In fact, I think he'd be better at it than your eventual Empire leader is at it, to be honest.
Absolutely. No, that's the thing. We're talking about a guy who's going to be sitting on a golden throne, hot girlfriend sitting in his lap, bodyguards surrounding the throne, stacks of money all over the place, guys dealing drugs and
running girls, running guns,
everything. Dude, this is the life that surrounds this guy, and he'd be going to be
for that.
Just sitting at the center
and he
of it,
can bring in the ring
it
too.
all. Yeah,
and when the time comes to get his hands dirty, he can bring it too.
Exactly.
He's not a mouthpiece.
This is the guy who will put his bodyguards out there to deal with people, but when he has to, he can back up his words. His bite is even worse than his bark. That's
nice.
that's the kind of guy that I'm going.
So Roman Reigns is a definite yes.
Definite yes.
Yeah.
And the fact that I didn't get him, that he was picked right before me,
was not fun.
If you go back and because you can go back on Cageside and read through, because we did this all in fan posts and made our picks through comments. You can see when Shaku Stewart picked Roman before me, my immediate first comment was no.
Yeah, that
all caps, 30 exclamation points.
I hate the way they're using him, but the character himself is pretty great.
Yeah,
and he is easily one of the top 10, if not better, in-ring wrestlers in the country, in the world, easily. Yeah. And I may be understating him. In-ring, Roman Reigns is great. Mm-hmm. The way WWE using him is not great, but I have more faith in you than I do in them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So something I noticed just now. So I hate to kind of veer off the script here a little bit.
That's fine.
You didn't draft your first main roster WWE guy until 10th.
Right.
Omega, Nakamura, Naito, Shirai, 10th. Your first main roster WWE guy or lady until Luke Harper.
Yeah.
Was that intentional, or was that just how it played out?
That is honestly just kind of how it played out. I mean, when I put together my draft board, I had a fair number of WWE guys towards the top of the list. Roman being first overall, Bray Wyatt was in the mix there, Finn Balor.
That was my okay.
Yeah.
So
there were a good number of guys who were there and could have easily slotted in at any one of those other points in the top 10. So just
Omega, Nakamura, and Omega Nakamura. Okay, that makes sense. So Omega, Nakamura, and Naito are your three faction leaders.
Yeah.
Right. Tell me a little bit about each of them and how they're leading their faction.
Right. The Nakamura is the
guy. So Omega's leading the Empire, right?
Yeah. Omega is taking the spot in the Empire. He is doing exactly what I described Roman Reigns is doing, and I am clamping as the president of my federation. I am clamping down on Omega day one and saying to him, "You are not doing your wacky bullshit that you do. You are going to be, you are going to be a serious performer. You are going to be a heel, and you are going to act like it from beginning to end. There's not going to be any of this dumb shit that you do with the Young Bucks. This is going to be asshole killer Kenny Omega, the cleaner. This is going to be the cleaner from when he first turned heel.
Okay. But not the guy with the broom.
Yeah, not the guy with the broom.
Okay, that makes sense. Tell me about Nakamura and Naito.
All right, Nakamura is going to be the guy in charge of the coalition, and I'm basically putting him in the role of being the grizzled old veteran who's kind of gotten a little bit of the war crazies, kind of playing a little bit to his natural eccentricities. And Will Ospreay is going to be his second in command. Nakamura is going to be kind of an enigmatic, disconnected leader, but he's still going to be when he enters into his leadership role, he will still be a commanding presence.
But, and again, someone who can bring it in the ring. Now,
but accounting for the fact that he is also, like AJ Styles, older and may not have the longest clock on him.
Okay. So tell me about Naito, and then I'll go through these picks.
Yeah. Naito as the leader of Mutiny, I'm basically taking his natural persona as the leader of LIJ and adding this kind of fanaticism to him, where he is going to be utterly devoted to the idea of destruction as creation. He is going to be as a cult person as you can be, preaching this gospel of destruction and just making it known that he truly and utterly believes this and that he is willing to sacrifice everything to make that reality.
I like Kenny Omega, given who was off the board. He's young. He's what, 34, 35. He's young enough.
Yeah.
He can, as long as he's not goofy shit, you should be okay. He's obviously tailor-made to be the leader of an empire. He's the leader of the Bullet Club.
Yeah.
I think Nakamura is a reach.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. I'd rather have Chris Hero in that role, to be honest. I mean, I think he could have done a little better with Chris Hero. Hero doesn't have the miles on him.
Yeah.
Nakamura wrestled 10 years in New Japan. Yes, Chris Hero wrestled a lot of indies, but I can't remember Chris Hero spending extended time on hiatus like I can with Nakamura.
Yeah.
B, you're getting motivated Chris Hero. Nakamura, when he's motivated, he's one of the best in the world, as we discussed during the San Antonio show, when he gave a damn, and he put on a 4-star match with Bobby Roode, who is not a 4-star match talent in the ring.
Yeah, not anymore.
If you could promise me that you get motivated Shinsuke Nakamura every week, I think you're great.
Yeah. Well,
you promise me that you get healthy Shinsuke Nakamura every week, I think you're great. But also, this is an English Fed, right?
Yeah. Well, the idea is that the promos, any sort of dialogue that's going to happen is going to mostly be through backstage segments, on-screen stuff.
Okay, so you can have like subtitles.
You can have subtitles if you want.
I still think I'd rather. I think I'd rather have Chris Hero over Nakamura. Now, I love Nakamura. Don't get me wrong. It was a joy to go to San Antonio and see him wrestle.
Yeah.
It's one of my all-time. It was one of my dreams. It was great. He's a presence live.
Right.
And Brother Chris, if he ever comes to your area, make all due haste to see him.
Oh, I went both times that NXT was in the New York area, and I could see him.
Is live? He's something else.
Yeah.
The charisma doesn't translate on TV. But I think in that role, I think I'd rather go, even because you talk about Nakamura being the grizzled, shell-shocked veteran.
Yeah.
I think you need a power face, and I think Hero is better for that role. Possibly.
I mean, the whole idea of Nakamura in that role is that I wanted somebody who, like you said, when he's in the ring is going to be motivated. And the whole point of these three, the whole point of Omega and Nakamura, I mean, Naito is going to be a little bit different, but Omega and Nakamura are going to be people who are not going to be getting into the ring unless they have to. So I intend to have Nakamura only facing opponents who are at his level, who are going to get a motivated Nakamura. So if Nakamura is getting in the ring, he's facing either Omega or Naito, potentially like 2 or 3 others. But he's going to be facing top tier opponents that are going to make sure that he's giving a great match, and that he will give a great match for.
Okay, so. I'm willing to see. I can concede that. And again, if he cares, nobody's better. The issue is, does he care?
Yeah.
So I get what you're coming from.
Yeah, I want Nakamura showing up in the ring to be, and Omega too. I want, when they show up in the ring, I want it to be considered, okay, this is serious business. This is something that needs to be given attention. So those two, when they show up, that's going to be a big deal.
Tell me about the 3 women you drafted. Shirai, is that how you pronounce it? Io Shirai?
Io Shirai,
Evie, and Peyton Royce. Tell me, what are their roles?
So first,
and what are the role of women's wrestling in your federation in general?
Right. So, being that this is going to be an inclusive fed, and that we're going to have women's wrestling and intergender. I mean, again, intergender not as much of a focus, but it's going to happen. You know, women's wrestling is going to be seen as, it's going to just be an element within the storyline of the warfare, and everybody who's not at that top 3 leadership level they're being thought of as soldiers in a war. That's really what this is. This is truly a war where soldiers are going to war and generals are sending them out to war. So Shirai, she is going to be Kenny Omega's assassin. That's essentially what she is.
She's going to be in the Empire.
She is Empire. She is heel. She is silent assassin. Io Shirai goes out, murders people, leaves. That is what she does.
I like it.
If you think about what she did when she was on Lucha Underground as Hitokiri, that's essentially what you're going to get there. The woman who is going to come out there against your finest, bravest warrior and leave them lying in a heap. So that is Io Shirai's role. Evie is going to be the top woman in the coalition, and she's going to basically be the foil to Io Shirai. She's going to be the one who's going out there when Io Shirai is in the midst of murdering someone and trying to stop her. And the two of them are going to be going to war pretty frequently. Evie's going to be my top female babyface in the promotion, and I think with her style and her look, she will fit that role very well. Someone who's going to be willing to give it all and willing to sacrifice it all against an opponent who is stronger than her and can put her in very compromising situations.
What about Peyton?
All right, Peyton is going to be playing the role of Omega's girlfriend, and kind of his I don't really know what to put her as beyond that, but she is going to be a fierce fighter too, as someone who can kind of handle his business dealings as well in storyline, and considered at his level as an equal within the Empire itself. In matches, going to be playing heel, basically doing exactly what she's doing right now in her current gimmick in NXT. Better than you, cheating heel that is going to go to any lengths to win, and if she doesn't win, will beat you down after the match because she wants to win.
So she and Io are going to be in the Empire.
Yeah, they're both going to be Empire.
So she's going to be Mrs. Kenny Omega, and Io is just going to be Kenny's right-hand woman.
Yes.
Is there any down the road dissension with that?
I don't know yet. Okay. I could see that maybe being a thing that happens in a storyline if Peyton had, if Peyton is like running an operation and it fails and Kenny gets upset with her and berates her or whatever, there's a possibility that she defects to either of the other two organizations. I'm not sure yet though, but for right now, the beginnings of things, the two of them, they're going to be the top two women for the Empire.
Okay. Who in the top 10 would you have drafted had they been around, and why?
Of the top 10
that you
rounds?
Didn't draft. Yeah, the top 10 rounds. Sorry.
Okay.
Just real quick, look at the draft board in the top 10 rounds. Who would you have drafted and why? That you didn't.
We
Roman Reigns we discussed, but let's.
All right, we've been over this in our own separate discussions, but Okada is someone that I wanted to take and I wish I had taken, because ideally, if he had been around, I would have taken him as the second in command role for the coalition as Nakamura's right hand man. I saw Will Ospreay was still on the board, and I took him because that kind of talent you can't really deny.
No, you can't.
But Okada is someone that I really wanted to get, and the fact that I didn't get him is still kind of upsetting, but neither here nor there. Just have to kind of deal with that. Tama Tonga, I was hoping to get Tama Tonga and Tangaroa later in the draft. I'm still shocked that he went as high as he did. I was really hoping to get him further on down the line, but that didn't wind up coming together. The only other person in the top 10 that I didn't get that I really was thinking that I wanted was Ember Moon, and I wanted her as my lead female in Mutiny. I wanted to have a fighter who can scrap with the best of them and is not afraid to do insane shit to win. And that, if you've seen Ember Moon's matches from when she was on the Indies as Athena, you know that that's exactly what she is. She is someone that will go above and beyond to get the win and do the craziest stuff to get there. So, I would definitely put her in. If I had gotten her, I would have put her in as the lead female in Mutiny and let her cut loose with everything that she's capable of doing, because her style as it is right now, very limited to what she's actually capable of doing.
Very. I see that you went out of your way to get Los Ingobernables de Japón.
Yes.
Evil, Sonata, Bushi. We talked about Naito. Are they all going to be just kind of lifted, transplanted to the Mutiny, or are you going to kind of spread them out, or what are you going to do with them?
They're all in Mutiny, and they're going to be kind of the whole idea of Mutiny as a faction is going to be people who are, again, just like Naito is going to be, they're going to be fanatically devoted to creation through destruction. And I wanted to get people who translate that in their wrestling. And to me, there's no faction that represents that better than Los Ingobernables. You have Hiromu Takahashi, who is,
it's in their name practically.
Yeah. I mean, Takahashi's going to end up with a drastically shortened career if he continues using his body as a weapon like he does. Evil, Sonata, and Bushi as a trio, there's no one better at just being disruptive and destructive in everything that they do. And then I also got the two guys from CMLL. I got Andrade, formerly La Sombra, and I got Rush, who
great pick.
They were the core of Los Ingobernables at the beginning. If I had space on my board to get La Mascara as well, I would have taken him too. Guys who go to any lengths, go to any lengths to get the win, and will be as horrific and destructive as you can imagine to get there along the way.
What are you doing with Harper, Rowan, Shibata, and Braun? What's their roles?
Harper, Rowan, and Braun are all going into Mutiny as well.
Okay.
Again, guys,
so Mutiny's basically Harper, the Wyatt family meets LIJ.
Yeah, with other chaotic.
So if Bray was around, would you have picked him?
If Bray was around, I probably would have picked him as. Actually, no. Let me clarify that. If I hadn't gotten Naito, Bray would have been the pick.
Okay.
Because I need someone who's got that charisma, but is also capable of being.
Would you have picked Bray over Naito?
Crazy. I don't know. I mean, to me, they were on equal level on my draft board, because they both are young guys who have insane charisma and are capable of playing just an incredible spectrum of characters. Their character traits that they can put into whatever role they're playing, incredibly vast and incredibly good spectrum of stuff that they can do. So they were equal level. And it was basically, if I didn't get one, I was going to take the other. If I didn't get either of them, that was like I'm cutting this to two factions at that point, because I need someone who can.
You need an anchor.
Yeah, you need that anchor, and there's no one else who could really do that. Between the two of them for a faction like that.
What about Shibata?
Shibata is going full heel and is going to be the him and Jeff Cobb are going to be the enforcers for the Empire. Nice. The guys who you send out there again, just like Io Shirai, to just straight up murder people. Cobb is going to be the throw people around and leave them for dead. Shibata is going to be the you think you've got the strong guy. How about this? Straight shot to the face. He's dead.
So give me the top 5 or 6 members of each of these groups.
All right.
In order of importance.
Other board here.
We'll start with the Empire. Omega, we know.
Omega, Shirai, Cobb, Royce, and Shibata are your top 5 in the Empire.
Okay.
Those are your 5 people who you're going to constantly see.
They're your inner circle.
They're the inner circle. Yeah.
What about the Coalition? Who are the top 5?
Coalition,
5 or 6.
All right, Nakamura is the leader. Ospreay is the second in command. Evie is the top person there. Michael Elgin as another top.
I like that. I like it, but it's the power face.
Yeah, he's the powerhouse of the Coalition. Heidi Lovelace, same as Evie. Basically, I'm gonna if there's a tag team for women happening, those two are going to be the tag team, because they obviously have experience doing that. Mm-hmm. And then Rich Swann as the number 6 in the Coalition.
Okay. And how about the Mutiny? You said Naito.
Yeah, it basically runs in order there of LIJ guys. Well, it's actually Naito, Takahashi, and then the Wyatt family guys are the top people in Mutiny. And then further down you get the other LIJ guys.
What about the other tag teams you import or wholesale, like Akam and Razor and like that?
Yeah. Authors of Pain, they're functioning as bodyguards in the Empire. They are Omega's they're Omega's brute force to follow him around when he's going out and about doing things, and they're going to be the kind of the bouncers, so to say, for that
Okay.
inner
No, I
sanctum.
follow. Go on.
I'm creating a tag team for the Coalition out of Kalisto and Rey Horus, who is also El Dragon Azteca in Lucha Underground.
Okay.
I'm putting the two of them together because they, as both fighting luchadors, but with different styles of lucha, I think that they could function well as a versatile tag team. And then obviously Harper and Rowan can function together as a tag team. Almas and Roosh can function together as a tag team. And I thought.
Wait, what did Jeff Cobb? You said is doing what? I'm sorry.
Cobb is going to be the power enforcer for the Empire, but okay. I could easily put him in a tag team with the likes of Marty Scurll, or even Apollo Crews.
I was about to say, tell me about Melissa Santos, 25th overall. What are you going to do with her?
She is going to be the ring announcer, and I'll admit right there was purely a pick just to kind of throw everybody else off. Last pick of day one of the draft, I wanted to grab somebody who wasn't going to be in ring talent, but was going to still play a significant role in the Fed. And as she's proven in Lucha Underground, there's no one better for getting people hyped for a match. She's got a great voice, she's got a great look, and she, as a ring announcer, has really not done anything egregiously bad that would make me pause and say maybe she's not the best for this role. Out of all the ring announcers that are out there, I've listened to a lot of ring announcers, and her and probably Greg Hamilton from SmackDown are the only ones who have not ever done anything just terrible, that just made terrible mistakes with their ring announcements. So I wanted to get her.
What kind of are there belts in your federation?
Yeah, there are going to be titles.
Are there weight classes?
Not really. It's not based on. It's not really based on weight classes right now. What I have. The idea of the belts is that the belts are going to be representative of, in storyline, different things that you can have for your faction. Winning a belt means better territory, more trade opportunities, control over different areas, money influx, that kind of thing, resources, etc. So the belts will mean in storyline they're going to be signs of advancement for your faction. And they're basically, the way that the belts are each going to be introduced is that the Cabal is going to be a presence on the show, basically interacting to make sure that everything is running smoothly within the arena. And the mouthpiece for the Cabal is going to be Ghetto. And Ghetto is going to be the one who's going to present, opportunities for different things to the factions. He's going to be the one to, say that this is something that's being introduced. And he's going to be the one that is the, for all intents and purposes, running the show for the Cabal as
your ringmaster, so to speak.
Yeah, he that will be his role. So there's going to be a main title, which is going to be called the Supreme Combatant title.
Okay.
And that's going to be awarded right off the bat. That's going to be one of the first things that we do, is to award the Supreme Combatant. And it's going to be a 3-way war between the 3 leaders of each of the factions.
So the main event of your first show is Omega, Nakamura, Naito.
Yeah.
Winner, who's winning?
Omega is winning that match through cheap tactics. He's going to basically, as soon as Naito hits Nakamura with Destino, he's going to kick Naito in the head and throw him out of the ring and pin Nakamura.
Okay.
So he is going to be winning this through his own dastardly resourcefulness.
That scoundrel.
Yeah.
That filthy cur.
Exactly. And that is basically going to set the precedent that the Empire is going to be the power faction that the other two are chasing, but through different means. Then I'm going to have a tag team title called the Brotherhood of Combat that I'm going to actually give, ironically enough, to Kalisto and Rey Horus to start off with, because I want to still be able to give the Coalition a foothold. So they're going to win that tag title through a tournament. It's going to see them at the end defeating. Who did I have them defeating? I want to say it was actually Andrade and Roosh. They beat in the finals there.
And Andrade and Roosh are with Mutiny, right?
Yeah, they're Mutiny.
Okay.
So, and it's gonna be The structure for the tournament I haven't finalized of how that's going to work out, but that's going to be something that happens within the first 2 or 3 months of
One of the
things.
picks that you picked in the mid rounds that I really liked. I like Adam Cole at 21.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about him. That when I saw this, that really stuck out to me. I think Adam Cole is a good performer. I think he gets lost in the Bullet Club silliness.
Yeah.
That we've talked about in the past. He's what, 28, 27?
Yeah. Young guy, got a good ceiling to him.
Good ceiling, good look.
And I wanted a guy who can successfully talk shit and back it up. And that's really what he's doing.
Where are you putting him?
He's an Empire guy, and he is going to be the.
So Empire is pretty stacked.
I mean, well, they're all pretty stacked, but I mean, it's really just a matter of, thinking about the different roles that these people can play. Cole as a performer has excelled as someone that can go in the ring, but is not afraid to, cheat when he needs to. And this is a guy who I can see as, within the faction, the guy who's out, making sure that, people are paying their tithes to the Empire with, the team of enforcers, going around, making sure people are paying their tithes, making sure
time to pay your money. Okay.
Making sure that, trade operations are going the way that they're supposed to. He's going to be, I know that Fale is in there too, but for all intents and purposes, Cole is going to be the underboss. Cole is going to be the guy who's going out and, making sure that everything day to day for the Empire is running.
Is he going to get Bad Luck Fale's great music that says underboss in it?
Yes.
I think he should, because that's great music.
It is. It's a fantastic song.
Okay. I like that stuck out of me. I think that's a good role for him.
Yeah.
I like Dragon Lee, Takahashi, obviously you could just have out there and have him put great matches. What's Dragon Lee up to?
Dragon Lee is also Empire, and I haven't really figured out how he's going to slot in, because there are a lot of guys but with the Empire that are performing different roles, but I wanted to have a lucha guy in the Empire who can stack up against people like a Rich Swann or Volador Jr. or Bushi, a high flyer guy who can also play a straight heel. And Dragon Lee is a guy who, as a performer, has still not shown his ceiling as well. And he is very versatile. And the moves that he pulls off, I believe that there's a way for lucha wrestling to be done with high flying, high spots that can still look vicious and dark. And I believe that Dragon Lee is a performer who can perfect that as an art form. So I want to have him kind of doing that.
What about, let's scroll down to the lower part of your card. I love Volador Jr. at 38. I think at 28, he would have been a steal.
Absolutely.
38. Yeah. I think you can slot him into any number of roles. I mean, we mentioned you can make him a trios wrestler. You can make him and Juice Robinson be a wacky tag team that can go. I like Volador Jr. and Ishii as just a weird contrast in styles. I mean, I even like Volador Jr. and someone like Big Mike. If you, I mean, because I think Volador Jr., I don't know if you are or not. I think you got to keep him as a face. I think
absolutely.
You got to give him that. But I mean, who are your other faces? Big Mike, right? Who else?
Yeah, Big Mike and Volador, both coalition. Swann, coalition.
Volador can do that with. I mean, Volador could even team up with Nakamura. You could even do a trios. Like you could even have like your third or fourth card be Nakamura and two people versus Omega and two people versus Naito and two people.
Yeah,
in a three-way trio. Because remember we got those awesome Young Bucks and AJ Styles matches. In 2015 against everybody, and they were great.
Yeah, leaders taking their lieutenants out to battle. I would love to do that.
Volador could be someone who could slot into any number of roles here, and I think that's a very good pick, good value. He's still. I think he's reached his ceiling. Obviously, he's 36, 35, but he still has 3 or 4 really good years left in him.
Yeah, and he gets the crowd on his side. The way that he can get everybody engaged.
Good looking man. Deal. I mean, handsome dude. Like that all matters.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Who else is in coalition?
Incidentally, I was at a taqueria last night, and they were showing clips of Friday Night CMLL.
Nice.
On Univision. I was like, I should be watching this.
You can watch it while you're out instead of watching it from home.
Taqueria, and they were cutting into it, Nice. I think it was Univision was on, or telenovela, or Univision was on, and they were cutting into it. And they were showing clips of CMLL. I was like, yeah, my kind of place.
Nice.
But yeah, Volador is a very good pick. Juice Robinson, I think, is another underrated pick. I think it's a big sleeper. Tell me a little bit about Juice.
Yeah, Juice is also Coalition, and I'm going to
As
be
you should
putting
be.
him as both him and Volador are going to be playing the roles of like guys who are going out for the Coalition, taking risks because they're looking to prove themselves as capable fighters. You know,
Okay.
people who are going to be going against larger and more intimidating opponents. Like I could easily put in a match where Juice or Volador is facing a guy like Evil or Braun Strowman or even Alexander Wolf
Okay.
from all mutiny guys, and just going up against them, being like, "You may be bigger than me, but I'm still going to fight you, and I'm going to give you everything that I've got because I believe in the cause that I'm fighting for." Those
Let's
are
let's let's talk about the bottom of your card for the bottom five. Which, by the way, I love that you drafted announcers and creative last. It's
yeah,
just like drafting kickers and defense in fantasy football. Who gives a shit?
yeah,
Like I mean, the people who drafted, like people who drafted Jim Ross and Lenny Leonard high. And I love Lenny Leonard. Don't get me wrong. Lenny
yeah,
Leonard is not the 18th pick in this draft.
yeah,
Steve Carino is not the 25th pick in the draft. Don't get me. I mean, this is wrestlers, creative, different story. If you can get a guy like Triple H or Ryan Ward, okay, fine. But
mhm.
announcers and creative, like that should definitely be slotted towards the bottom.
Yeah.
Tell me about Kevin Kelly and Byron Saxton. What are
Right.
you looking for in them?
Well, everybody questioned me and alternated between questioning me and poking fun at me for picking Byron Saxton. But let me just come right out and say this. As someone who has experience with broadcasting and wanted to make a career out of doing broadcasting for his livelihood, I can tell you right now that Byron Saxton never got a chance to really prove himself and create an identity for himself as a broadcaster, because he's been basically playing a caricature of one for the entirety of his time in WWE. The one time he was given a chance to play it straight and be taken seriously was the night after WrestleMania 31, when Lesnar came out and killed the commentary team, and Byron was sent out to take over for them. And that's not something you do with a junior commentator on his first night on the main roster. You don't do that because that's just dumb. You're going to have a guy who's going to be out there like a deer in the headlights, who isn't going to be able to string together a coherent sentence and do his job effectively. And that was what happened. Eventually, they sent out Lawler to save him. So Saxton, I think, is a guy who needs a chance to kind of start over fresh. And that would be what I would be doing with him.
Is he going to be a play-by-play guy?
No, he's going to be the color guy. I wanted to have an anchor as a play-by-play, and Kevin Kelly, one of the best in the game.
Yeah, Kevin Kelly's very good.
Very, very well traveled, has called it all, seen it all, and can definitely create an environment where Saxton doesn't need to play heel or face. He could just provide color analysis, which is what I want him to do.
He's just going to be a straight color guy. He's not going to do run a gimmick or anything.
Yeah, no. I don't like comment. I mean, call me crazy for this, but I don't like commentary tables that have running gimmicks like that. I want my wrestling to be called straight, and I like it better when it's called straight. Like the best announcing that I hear is when I'm watching New Japan and the team is not. I mean, they occasionally do skew to one side alignment or another, but overall, I think that New Japan's announcing is best for me personally, because I don't want to have that kind of biased analysis. I like it better when it's just played straight. And I think that for this kind of a promotion, for this kind of a performance, you're going to need to have somebody who's going to be playing it straight, because I don't want the people who are on the periphery of the combat to be showing preference towards one side or another, because within storyline that creates all sorts of issues. So I'd rather not have that if I can avoid it. Like,
tell me about Krista Joseph and Ghetto.
All right,
what are you looking for? What are you looking for there?
So I wanted to have two guys who are going to fit the overall vision for the promotion of faction warfare within a long-term story. Okay. Long-term story, Krista Joseph, for those who don't know, is one of the lead creative guys for Lucha Underground, and he's responsible for their long-term storytelling. So I knew that he was not going to go to anybody else, because the Lucha Underground creative team, you don't see them or hear them referenced with any sort of frequency. I mean, they talk about guys like Ryan Ward or Triple H or William Regal who have creative control for things within WWE. You hear those names and people recognize those names and attribute the good things that they're seeing on their screens to those names specifically. You don't hear that for Lucha Underground. And that was why I knew I could leave him to the end and get him in the 49th round without any risk. and he's going to be responsible for crafting a long-term story, and I believe that he can do that very well with with given the vision for what I have in mind. If I put that to him, I firmly believe he can say, okay, let's go, and start writing, and it'll work. And as far as Ghetto goes, like I said, he is going to have an on-screen role as the mouthpiece for the Cabal, but off-screen, I knew I needed somebody who has experience booking for faction warfare, and there's nobody better in the world right now. Ghetto, I mean, even when he does give preference to Okada and Chaos, all the same, the guy understands that when you have a faction warfare situation going on, you can't have anybody looking overly weaker than anybody else.
Here's all. Go on.
And I was going to say, recently with the introduction of Suzuki Gun, he's kind of proving that he can adapt to that on the fly, and he's starting to work them in and make them look good too. So I believe
here's all you need to know about Ghetto. He lost AJ Styles, he lost Shinsuke Nakamura, he lost Carl Anderson, he lost Doc Gallows, right?
Yeah.
1 year later, they drew more people to the Tokyo Dome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a pretty damn good accomplishment.
Yeah, exactly. And
building
also,
everybody from within too.
Yeah, and with a champion at the top of the promotion that a lot of people are not happy is the champion too. They still managed to increase
200 million yen, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, let me see if I have any more quick notes that I wanted to ask you. Oh, what happens to like guys who aren't drafted? Like, where's Nigo Casas or Blue Panther?
So, the people who aren't drafted, we haven't really figured out what we're going to do there, but I imagine that they can be pulled in for roles and that nobody's going to really complain. So my thought is that there can be a lot of people who are older wrestlers, retired wrestlers that can easily be brought in later on down the line and be revealed to be members of the Cabal.
Okay.
Because I
think the Cabal as old guys is great.
Yeah.
You have like Nigo Casas and Blue Panther and like even Vince if you want. Like Vince is the overarching king of your kingdom. I think like that could be awesome.
Yeah.
Was Vince drafted?
No, Vince was not drafted.
Oh, man, that's
the only McMahons that were drafted were Triple H and Stephanie.
Okay, well Shane, whatever, but I think Vince, I think Vince does it because he put his ass on screen. Has there been a bad Vince McMahon segment? He got Roman Reigns over. The man's powers are limitless.
I mean, well, the match where he was the referee between Roman Reigns and Sheamus, I think that didn't really go as well as he would have liked. But no, I don't believe that there's ever been any segments where Vince has been just outright disliked for what he's doing
or bombed. As Vince segment never bombed.
Well, I mean,
the stupid McMahon's Millions thing, but he got rickrolled and it was awesome.
There's also the failing to open the capsules for the Royal Rumble entrance when they were picking, and Roman was always going to be the first entrant.
Oh yeah,
that one. I mean, because
that's a technical thing though.
Yeah, but and he couldn't open the capsules, which was funny. So I mean, there was that. So in the end, it wound up working out.
I think Vince, you all missed the boat on Vince, and I'm not just blaming you.
Right.
Vince is like the 48th pick. First of all, when you draft Vince, you get all the business contacts.
Well, I think
second of all, you get Vince the on-screen character.
Well, I think the problem that I believe a lot of people would be were weighing as in sort of their risk reward sense for that is that there's a strong likelihood that Vince would try to execute a hostile takeover and become the leader of the Fed and run things for himself. And I don't think anybody really wanted that.
I mean, but someone drafted Triple H high, that could happen.
Yeah, well,
Steph high, that could happen. I know what you're saying. I get it.
That was why I didn't want them.
I get it. Yeah. I think the bottom of this draft is very interesting.
Yeah.
You take a combination of old guys past their prime or young guys not yet at their prime, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. And you went with total creative and broadcasting guys, which I liked because again, it's a wrestling federation. Who late was drafted that you looked at and you said, "Man, I could have used that guy or that lady."
Drafted late,
like the last from 40 on down.
From 40 on down.
Like who drafted? I'm looking at the board that was you looked at and was like, "Man, I could have used this person."
Oh,
and tell me about. Okay, answer that, and then I'll ask my next question.
All right. Honestly, excuse me. The only people that I was thinking about drafting of that 40 down list um were Matt Sydal, who I like as a high flying guy, but I wouldn't be entirely sure where to slot him in. But I was thinking maybe I could just pick him up and just put him somewhere. And Anthony Henry was also on my board as a young guy who shows a lot of promise. He's someone that
that's a good one. You know who you missed the boat on, I think, and it's not an egregious oversight, don't get me wrong. And it's not someone that you should be like staying up at night like, man, I screwed up. I think The Undertaker would have been a lot of fun in your federation.
See,
not as a wrestler per se, as a locker room leader and as someone who just kind of like the ultimate free agent.
Yeah. Well, I'll be perfectly honest. I did not expect The Undertaker to be drafted at all. There are some people who are drafted on this board in certain roles that I would never expected to even come off the board. Undertaker is one of them. I never would have thought in a million years that anybody would draft him for anything.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Same thing goes for like Diamond Dallas Page, Trish Stratus, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
Yeah, people who were taken for roles that are like for like manager roles or GM roles, they're people who I never would have expected to get drafted for anything, and like it still is shocking in some ways that those things happen. But I mean, I think that this draft more than anything showed that the views that people can have for how they want to put together federations are so incredibly varied and wide ranging that none of us can really predict what they want to do. And I think that that's going to be something that we have a little bit of fun with next week when we go over the rest of the draft board.
Okay. All right. I like where your federation's at. You want to do a real quick Fastlane predictions?
Yeah, sure. Let's go run through that.
Fastlane tomorrow night. We'll be quick. These because we've already talked for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Pre-show. I'll just basically introduce the match. You give your thoughts. I'll give my thoughts. We'll move on to the next one.
Yeah.
These are off Wikipedia, so these are not in order.
Right.
These are just me looking up the card, and we can go from there. Pre-show: Rich Swann and Akira Tozawa versus the Brian Kendrick and Noam Dar.
Right.
What you got? Besides a bathroom break.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I enjoy Swann and Tozawa, so I'll watch to see if they win. I'm predicting that they win just because I think that they're because of how big the WrestleMania card is, they're gonna want to close out these feuds and move on to the inevitable multi-man cruiserweight shitfest that's gonna happen on the.
It'll be great.
So I'm predicting Tozawa and Swann win, close out their feuds with Kendrick and Dar.
Yeah, I think Kendrick's gotten one up to Tozawa a few times in a row now on TV, right?
Yeah.
I think it's time for Tozawa to get his modicum of revenge and everyone move on to something else.
Right.
Sami Zayn versus Samoa Joe. I am excited for this match.
I am excited to see Samoa Joe murder Sami Zayn.
And it will be glorious.
Yep. That's all you need to say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Again, Samoa Joe, someone who's getting more and more limited in ring with each passing day. Sami Zayn, we know, is great. Yeah. Would you have drafted Samoa Joe? Kind of bounce back to that. Where was he picked?
He was picked in the, I want to say 10th round. It was. He was picked fairly 10th. Early, and I thought about taking him, but I didn't think he was going to go until probably about 15 or 16 because of how limited he's been in the ring lately.
And he has.
But as a promo, as a talker, there's no one better right now. He's one of the best.
He is. Reminds me of Jay Briscoe in his promos have authenticity.
Yeah. Talk about other names that I wish I had gotten that I didn't. The Briscoe brothers. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was
that would have been a lot of fun for me to get the two of them.
They could have done anything for you.
Yeah.
Anyone
literally they fit everywhere. It's perfect.
Yeah, they do. They're pretty great, and I don't think it's gonna happen, but I love for them to get a WWE run sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Well, they're getting up there in age too, which is unfortunate, but
not as old as you think, but a lot of miles.
Yeah.
They're like 33, but it's an old 33.
Yeah.
I've talked to you this before, but I saw the Briscoes versus the Young Bucks at a house show in Chicago Ridge a couple years ago, and the Young Bucks started with their little wacky shit. You know, they were trying to like too sweet the Briscoes and stuff, and Jay just murdered Matt, and then they went to the outside and they were like, "Uh-oh, we need to be serious here. Otherwise, we're going to be fed to chickens in Delaware.
Yeah,
And they were serious, and it was great. Which tells me that the Young Bucks, if they wanted to be serious, could be, but that they play the gimmick up to sell T-shirts and make money. Which, hey, it's great. The only thing that matters is the miles and the money.
Yeah.
But it's like we talked about this, how you get the only time people care about a band in the concert is when they play their hit single.
Yeah, that's the Young Bucks.
Right, I think that's the Young Bucks right now. The only time people care about U2 is when they're playing Where the Streets Have No Name, and that's the Young Bucks right now.
Yeah.
Which is too bad. Sasha Banks and Nia Jax. I think Nia Jax is going to win. And they're just going to kill Sasha Banks even though she draws.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much given away with the whole thing on Raw this week where, Sasha can only be ringside if she defeats Nia for the Bayley-Charlotte match. And I think it's pretty clear, Sasha's losing here and she's not going to be able to make it to ringside.
What about Bayley and Charlotte Flair?
I'm not betting against Charlotte. I'm not betting against Charlotte until I see her actually lose on pay-per-view. So Charlotte takes it back again.
Yeah, because they love hot shot in this belt. Gallows and Anderson versus Enzo and Cass.
I'm kind of torn on this one, to be honest, because on the one hand, seeing Enzo and Cass make an entrance to WrestleMania as champs, I think would be a huge pop for the crowd. On the other hand, seeing Enzo and Cass win the belts at WrestleMania would also be a huge pop for the crowd, especially given that they ran Orlando where they kind of made their name.
I like that. I think Anderson and Gallows win by shenanigans. I think we get a three-way Enzo and Cass, Cesaro and Sheamus, and Anderson and Gallows at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think that's the eventual direction.
I think that's our Mania three-way. Yeah. And it'll be great. Because the New Day are hosting, so they're not going to be in the match, but whatever.
Yeah, initially I had picked Enzo and Cass to win, but now the more that I've thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, probably not.
What about Neville and Jack Gallagher?
Oh, Neville retains.
Without doubt. As you should.
Because, again, this is going to be cruiserweight multi-man fuckfest that's going to happen on the pre-show is going to be for the belt. There's no doubt about it. So,
what about Roman and Braun?
Oh, God, as much as I hate to say this, it probably ends... I mean, I wanted it to end with Roman getting the win and then Undertaker coming out afterwards to confront him, but I'm willing to bet that
it'll be. I don't think Braun's losing. I think they're going to do the world famous lose to another man's music distraction finish.
Yeah, or lose to the light. In the case of Taker, it's lose to the lightning.
Yeah,
Taker showing up in the ring, shocking Roman. Roman goes to hit Taker and gets annihilated by Braun instead.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that finish. I'm not, but. All right, Kevin Owens Goldberg seems pretty obvious.
I mean, everybody thinks it's obvious, but
maybe you're right.
They're teasing pretty hard the possibility that they could introduce now the Triple H stable reign of terror with Joe.
I think it's too soon. I think it's too soon to be Goldberg. I think Goldberg Brock needs to be for the belt. I think they've booked it backwards in that Goldberg the face is squashed Brock the heel twice.
Yeah,
but it's good when Brock kicks out of that first jackhammer, the roof is going to come off the place in Orlando. Yeah. So,
I mean, at this point, they've booked it so that essentially no one's going to be happy with the finish of the Fastlane match because either Goldberg squashes Owens, which people aren't going to like because they're going to say Owens shouldn't have been squashed, or it's going to be the Triple H faction is going to come out, and I don't think anyone's going to want the Triple H faction either. So either way, I don't think it's going to be.
I don't.
But my prediction is that we have the Goldberg squash.
So do I. I think here's how it happens. Owens gets the upper hand early with a cheap shot, hits the rolling cannonball, goes for another rolling cannonball. Goldberg gets up, roars, spear, jackhammer, 1, 2, 3.
It's either
3 minutes. First of all, Goldberg can't go much more than 3 minutes.
Exactly. It's either going to be that or as soon as the bell rings, Jericho's music hits. And Jericho comes out. Owens is like, what the fuck? What are you doing here? And then Goldberg hits his 3 moves of doom and wins.
Sure, that works too.
Either way.
All right. Good show.
Yeah, good first episode.
Not bad.
We did it, guys.
And thanks for listening, everybody.
And we're going to be back next week to look at the rest of the nightly draft board with the other 5 contestants and see what we think of their federations and where we think they're going. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we hope that you will join us again next week, same time, same place for episode 2 of 2 Guys, 1 Sport.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm George. That was Chris. We hope to see you next week.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Bye, guys.